Hi everyone, this is Roman Zelenka and welcome to my podcast where we explore the wisdom of those around us.
Hey guys, today I am with Libor Mattuš, my friend, biohacker, co-founder of a biohacking website, Code of Life, linguist, expert in Chinese martial arts, and what is the most interesting thing today, he is a breathing instructor. So, Libor, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Roman, for your invitation.
Libor, for me, you are a true master of breath, and I can talk for ages about different breathing techniques. But with an expert like you, I want to skip the easy questions like, is breathing important? Of course it is. Or can we influence our health, immune system, and level of energy by controlling how we are breathing? Yes, we can. Science has already proven that, and we can provide links in the comments below. So now we have established that, Libor, let's dive right into different breathing techniques that you teach. Sound good?
Let's do this. Right.
Okay. So you spent about 10 years of deep researching. So give us a quick overview of the most common breathing techniques out there today.
Yeah. That's a good starting point, Roman. So we can say that we have several big breathing systems, let's say, in the world currently, at least as I perceive it. And we can see that those systems are quite widespread with some instructors training systems and really trying to help more and more people to really get more, let's say, more functional breathing. So maybe let's start with the most famous one currently, which is Wim Hof Method.
Of course.
Of course. Which is not only about the breathing, but also about cold exposure and mindset, which are called 3 pillars of the Wim Hof Method. But breathing is one of them, and the specifically breathing technique, which is called simply like Wim Hof breathing technique, which is based on techniques of hyperventilation, which means like quick breathing, followed by the breath retention. And we are usually performing several rounds, like 2, 3, 4, 5. We usually do not recommend to do more if we are alone. In group settings, it might be different. And this kind of technique, like Wim Hof breathing technique, start to be very popular among people because immediately people feel energized. They feel some tingling, some funny, some changes in their mood, in their behaviors. Even a lot of people who used to be, or not a lot, but there are people, even among my friends, who were addicted to some substances or wanted to break some habit. So this kind of breathing technique helped them a lot. So that's the first, which I'd like to mention, Wim Hof Method breathing technique.
And I'm very happy for that because I have been practicing Wim Hof Method for the last 4 years.
Yeah, for a very long time.
I can say it changed my life. And it was like the starting point of not more advanced, but different breathing techniques. And maybe now you can talk about them.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we were talking about Wim Hof breathing multiple times in the past, so it's wonderful that you can really see the journey. Because I was starting with recently also with the Wim Hof breathing technique, which was somehow different than the other more peaceful techniques, and I really feel it's a good base for as you just said, delve deeper into some other methods which are more holistic.
I see.
And one of the very holistic methods currently, it's called Buteyko Method, which is named after Ukraine or Soviet doctor at the time, Konstantin Buteyko.
I think that guy, he was training astronauts or something like that?
As well, yeah. He was actually very high-level Soviet Union doctor at the time when Soviet Union was competing with the US about, spaceship missions and so on. So there were really a lot of money poured into those projects, and Buteyko was very highly educated. He was very skilled in the medical field. He was very renowned doctor, and he was received he received many grants. He has his finger on a lot of grants, so he could really do very deep research. And one of the things he discovered that a lot of illnesses actually which people has, any illness you can imagine, it can be like, illnesses of heart, diabetes, different like inflammation diseases, were connected to the lower actually presence CO2 in the body, which is very interesting because at the time in his age, and we may compare it to today's age in certain ways, there were only two main ways how people or doctors dealt with illnesses, and it was surgery or medication. They didn't know any other tools, so didn't use them. And Dr. Buteyko came with this realization that you can actually change your state of your body, state of your health on a very remarkable level just by the breathing. And to the contrary to the popular belief, and maybe also a little bit to the contrary of some other breathing techniques, he focused on breathing less.
Yes, I heard it a lot. And why?
Yeah, that's a very good question because it's logical, like people usually think in this way, and a lot of yoga instructors supports us in this kind of thinking that the more you breathe, the more oxygen you get. Sounds logical, right? But in the biochemical reality of our inner body, inner world, it's completely different because we need CO2 for the oxygen to get really into the cells, especially in the heart, brain, but in every single cell which needs oxygen. And that's something what was usually missed out from the research for most of the medical history. And like nowadays, his ideas are not new because he made some discoveries, let's say 1950, 1960. He was also talking very publicly about this, these findings. So still, like we have, 60 years already of this like very scientifically proven research about CO2, and he wasn't the first one. There were like 20 years ahead of him. Some other colleagues from other countries made this discovery. And basically nowadays, for busy people, we can draw one basic message, and it's breathing less, breathing mainly through the nose. And really gathering the CO2 by the nice, smooth, light breathing, which is only one functional type of the breathing, which Dr. Buteyko and now a lot of followers of his ideas take into account, like only one functional breathing pattern for the human being.
I see. Okay, so you mentioned Wim Hof, then
Buteyko Method.
Anything else?
There's one method which is very similar to the Buteyko method, which is stemming out of it, and it's oxygen advantage. It's a system found by Patrick McKeown, who's himself practitioner of Buteyko techniques. He's a very, very educated man who was studying with Dr. Buteyko himself. And Patrick actually works more with a sportsman. I don't believe he's a sportsman himself, but he brought those techniques more to the sport environment. And now he's talking on different kinds of conferences. He's talking to a lot of doctors on like laryngologists, a lot of like different disciplines, because breathing really influences everything. And he has a big voice also here in the West, because old Russian research is somehow special. Still in current science we use the term Russian science because it's somehow different. There's a lot of things which are hard to study or a little bit away from like current like more Western European or American approach. So he really Patrick helps to put some older Buteyko claims in the modern world and really make it maybe more accessible for people now. So this is like the two very similar, let's say, from outer point of view, systems like Buteyko method from Konstantin Buteyko and current like newer one, oxygen advantage from Patrick McKeown, who also wrote wonderful book Oxygen Advantage, name of his system, which I really can highly recommend for everybody to check it out. It's in English, it's not in Czech, so for folks who can speak only in Czech, just need to rely on other sources, but for English speaking leaders and managers, this is very good book to read. It's very simple. Patrick really can transmit those very complicated ideas into simple language, which is very easy for everybody to comprehend.
Okay, excellent. So, and maybe today we can practice some breathing techniques from this method and as well from Wim Hof, or it will be up to you.
For sure.
I also heard something about SOMA Breath. Can you share some information about this method?
That's a good to mention, because SOMA Breath is kind of coupled with the Wim Hof Method for me, like in case of the breathing techniques used, because the same as Oxygen Advantage and Buteyko kind of have same roots and same principles in many ways. SOMA breathing is very similar to the Wim Hof Method breathing technique, but which is no wonder, because all those techniques have very roots in the Pranayama and old ancient breathing techniques from the yogis. And SOMA technique is, from my personal point of view, somehow softer or more, let's say,
gentle,
user-friendly, because I'm not currently certified Wim Hof instructor, despite the fact that I went through the complete training, I completed everything, but there were some other other reasons for me to break the cooperation, and so I basically know I don't want to sound weird, but I know most of the things which are in ether about the Wim Hof Method, and I was helping with the technique, with different breathing techniques, to a lot of people, to hundreds, maybe now thousands people, and I really see a lot of people practicing Wim Hof breathing method too hardly, right? Especially those high achieving men, as maybe a lot of your audience are, that really breathing.
Yeah, you feel like a man.
That's my power, I do it fully. But it actually can be harmful for the body in long term, or it's stressing it out.
Yeah, we will come to that lately. Okay, so maybe what's the difference between Wim Hof and SOMA breathing?
Those similarities are just technical, little differences. If you take, for those of your listeners who know or practice Wim Hof technique, as for example you do, the breathing technique, we know that there are basically three phases, right? There's phase of, usually it's called hyperventilation, which is like deep breathing. When you, in the case of Wim Hof breathing technique, we use the hyperventilation. I call it just like Wim Hof method style hyperventilation, because it's stress inhale, right?
I see. I call it super breathing.
Because you feel very super afterwards. So you do deep breathe in and let it go. And sometimes, in the case of WHM, which is short for Wim Hof method, people do it too quickly, right? And SOMA breathing takes this into the consideration, and they help people to breathe in certain pattern. So sometimes you can count to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, inhale and exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's slower. It trains people to have really this discipline and do not, if I put it in this way, destroy their bodies by breathing really too heavily. So that's the one way. SOMA breathing also has different versions. For example, you can breathe out for longer than you inhaled, and it's followed also, the dynamic breathing is followed by the breath retention, as the same with the Wim Hof method. But the inhale, and there's a little trick, which some people from WHM use as well, but after holding the breath for a long time, you just breathe in a little bit, you breathe out, and hold your breath again.
Yeah, you sip in. That's the term.
Exactly. And in this way, you are actually able to lower your blood oxygen for even more, and you also have this wonderful feeling, which is very useful maybe for mental training of people who want to overcome some obstacles, because for first few maybe 2 or 3 seconds afterward, you will feel like I can't hold my breath anymore, because I was already.
It comes,
and then it comes, and you can somehow. And it's so miraculous, because it shows you that your body and your mind has some more capacity than you thought originally, and then you are calm. I usually hold my breathing for 20 or 30 seconds more after the point when I thought that it's not possible anymore. So you just repeat those little breath holds for 2-3 times, And then if you are measuring it, measure your blood oxygen saturation by pulse oximeter, the little thing which you put on your finger, non-invasive measurement, you can see that your saturation is coming like it's lower and lower, which is generally nowadays considered to be good thing. But we don't know for sure yet because the research is not very long nowadays. It's not like lifetime, so we don't know what happens with the people practicing this for a long time. But if it's practiced by the healthy subjects, healthy people, we suppose, based on current research, then the frequent, I mean like not once in the lifetime, but several times, month, a week, who knows, lowering on purpose the body oxygen level is a good thing, which may even help you to let's say wake up your stem cells, which are like sometimes called holy grail of the medicine, because stem cell can regenerate any tissue in your body.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you said just now, because I had that feeling many times, because I recovered from really serious injuries. I had a serious lower back pain, and I almost broke my leg, and also some inflammation in my body, and I recognized that my recovery time it's shortening when I'm doing these techniques. But what I also want to mention with SOMA breathing is that there was the meditation was included, and I experienced really nice feelings when I listened to that specific music. And I also enjoyed chanting that was included in that method.
For sure. We can try this wonderful technique. I mean, like the chanting itself at the end of our interview, because it's very, very powerful, old ancient technique.
We can do that. Okay, is there anything else, any other technique that we can use these days?
Alongside those two Kapals, let's say, or breathing systems, we can maybe mention the Holotropic Breathwork, which is really famous nowadays. Yeah, it's kind of psychotherapeutic technique, which is not mentioned to be, which is not designed to be practiced like at home or regular basis. It's kind of very special technique which became very famous. It was actually originated by the Czech psychiatrist who's living in US. I believe he has US citizenship now, but he was born in Prague, I believe, Stanislav Grof. And he also, with his wife Christine, they were both very important people in in the, let's say, they were kind of founding fathers or founding mothers, in case of Christine, of transpersonal psychology, which is a very interesting field which tries to unite what psychology knows at the time or today about us, and what's maybe a little bit out of the scope of modern science, but it happens and we can use it for some purposes. So the same with the holotropic breathwork, which can get people to altered states of consciousness, or in psychotherapy, you need to break common pattern to really change something, right? So he's helping people, and now he has a lot of instructors. One of my colleagues, who's also SOMA breathing instructor, first in the Czech Republic. We are talking a lot about SOMA, and I'm helping helping him, to understand breathing in general outside of the scope of one technique. But he's a wonderful guy who actually, in his family, he has actually his father is doing helping people to do those holotropic breathwork seances for they are doing it for more than 30 years. So my friend really saw personally really a lot of people go through the training. So that's kind of breathing, which is we can call it somehow magic, because a lot of changes can happen. I haven't went through the holotropic breathwork myself. I planned it for the March of this year, but sadly with the lockdown and so on, we need to postpone it. So that's something what I don't have personal experience with, on the contrary to other of those techniques. But holotropic breathwork is one of the, let's say, Czech, if we can say it in this way, Czech method, invention, and now worldwide famous. Stanislav Grof himself is one of the, from my understanding, very few Czechs who are really worldwide famous with his findings and with his work, and what he did for people in very wide circles internationally.
Okay, do you also like to dive deeper into those sources from yoga, from pranayama. Do you practice that type of breathing as well?
For sure. There's, again, I believe there's great value in connecting to modern research about how breathing and the CO2 works, really. But, if we take techniques like SOMA, WHM, other techniques that are usually based on some pranayama techniques, because, as my favorite source about breathing, Dr. Psychologist Belis Avranic says, like, we didn't came up with the breathing, it's here for thousands of years. So obviously everything what somebody's coming up is already somewhere else. And in pranayama, or let's say Indian, if I put it in this way, methods of the breath training connected to the yoga, to the different styles of the yoga. But yeah, very, very famous techniques nowadays, widely practiced, which are also some hyperventilation styles. For example, we have techniques like Bhastrika, which is like very, dynamic, quick breathing, which you can feel that your diaphragm is getting stronger because it's really like very dynamic thing. Also for the breathing muscles, very, very useful. Also for sportsmen, guys like you who are running, doing like lot of endurance exercises.
You need that muscle. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Your diaphragm is really, really important. Also because it can wrap off your extremities of energy if it has insufficient supply. So diaphragm is really like leader in our body. So Bhastrika can help with that as well, and it can help to energize us.
So I understand that there are different techniques, and some are activating our body and some are for calming us down, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So which is which, or what's the difference? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. I usually put a nice little table in my presentations, and also we have it in one of my articles on our Code of Life webpage, in Czech only currently, but you can make a very strong link between techniques which are like stressing or activating, in other words, and distinguish them from the techniques which calms your system down. And the very concrete links are, for first, you're stressing, breathe in or breathe out. So breathe in is very activational, like a Wim Hof technique, right? And if you want to calm yourself down, you stress, breathe out. The same with the pauses between breathing in, breathing out. Actually, we talk about the pranayama, or in ancient techniques, they call it kumbhaka. They have one word for like breath retention. And when you breathe in and you have at least a little break or pause, and you breathe out and again you pause for a while, it makes your nervous system calmer.
Isn't that the box breathing technique?
Box breathing is kind of extreme version of this calming technique, when you have like long breaks between breathing in and breathing out. But even in like small unit, you have like half a second. If your body recognizes like little break or pause between inhale and exhale and vice versa, it's wonderful for calming you down.
I see.
You should breathe like this on a regular basis, actually, when you catch yourself that you are breathing uninterrupted. It's not a good message for your biosystem, because you're stressing yourself even if nothing around really happens. So this is this way. And if we want to activate ourselves, for sure we use the activational techniques, but most of the time, and our regular breathing should be in this calming manner, which is like, nice, smooth, slow, right? The breathing is one of the important differences between stressing out and calming down, because obviously if we take a big breaths and breathe quickly, it's stressing or activating us. And if we want to calm down, opposite approach needs to be taken. It means like to breathe very softly, gently, slowly, as the Buteyko Method or Oxygen Advantage teaches us, and really like make those slow pauses between inhaling in, exhaling, and take the breathing like your minute ventilation should be really, really small. So for example, Dr. Buteyko talks about like the lesser minute ventilation you get on the regular basis, the healthier you are. So you're exchanging less, let's say, gases in your lungs rather than more. It also calms you down and increase your health.
Okay, good. So Because usually I talk to leaders, and when we have coaching sessions, a lot of the time they tell me they are stressed out, they are overactivated. So maybe for those people you would recommend some calming techniques?
For sure,
Can you give us some examples today on me?
Yeah, why not? Let's do this, Roman. And first, very important is to practice those techniques regularly. So one of the ways which I recommend also to leaders which you are working with, to set the habit. And how do we do this? How do we set the habit? It's very effective approach is to actually tie the practice of this technique, which can take you 30 seconds or 1 minute, it's not about time, tie it with something what you're already doing. So if you have some rituals or something what you really do, like every your work day, you switch on the computer, or you go to the stairs, you go even to the toilet and so on. It's very useful to make a regular habit to put few tens of seconds of the breathing exercise in there.
That's very good advice, and I can confirm, because for me, when I started about 4 or 5 years ago, it was really hard to build up this new routine. But then I started doing a breathing exercise as the first thing in the morning before I start to physically exercise. And then also I implemented several breaks in my working hours. And right now you also inspired me that I calm my body before I go to bed.
Wonderful.
It's working just great.
Yeah. And I believe, Roman, that you are a great example for other busy leaders, because if you really implement those techniques to our day-to-day routines and lives, and it has firm position in there, it's very, very good for our, I'm not afraid to say even survival, because nowadays we are overwhelmed with stress, and if you take a glance on the health statistics, it's not a good message, it's not good news, because you see every single like degenerative and other diseases rising, because basically we have too much stress, too much inflammation. So this is something what people who are aware of their own body, of their own mind, they want to bring value, provide to other people, we really need to do it and develop this habit on the regular basis. It's more important than almost anything you could do in those 30 seconds.
And you know what's the best thing here?
Tell me.
It's for free.
Yeah.
Okay, but one important question. Is it safe? Can I harm myself somehow?
In case of techniques which are aimed at calming down, I don't think that healthy person should be afraid of this in any case. In case of activational techniques, which we can demonstrate as well, it's a question for your head can be spinning or something like you could fall down or something like this. In theory, it usually doesn't happen, but it could happen in theory.
Wait a minute, because when I started with Wim Hof Method, and I was doing better and better, and one day I completely forgot about those safety instructions. Never do it in the car, never do it in water, and I was waiting in traffic jam in my car. And I did that technique, and I almost lost my consciousness, and it was very dangerous, and that was really experience that I will never forget about it. And
so about the safety measures, that's a very good point. So if we talk about some complex techniques, as you know, Wim Hof, SOMA, is definitely needed to be practiced. I can recommend practice it lying it down. But if you are not lying, you can sit on the couch, for example,
like this,
and make your back safe, so you don't fall out, because it can happen for sure, because you're playing with a lot of forces in your body, and usually we feel that head is spinning, you feel tingling, different sensations. So as your example, Roman, says very well, just don't do it while in certain situations like driving car or being in the water and so on. Those are very dangerous, so just find a very safe place when you can't fall down from anything and be really safe. Don't practice even on chair, because it's very easy to fall down from the chair as well. Some bodybuilders did it in the past. When I was reading some forums, somebody was scolding, oh my god, you didn't tell me. So the first, safety position. Maybe the second, health state. If you are completely 100% healthy, male or female, it's okay, you can practice on your own whatever you think will bring good to you. But if you have some, conditions like high blood pressure, you have some problems with the heart, also different kinds of panic attacks, mental disorders, even epileptic seizures, those people are very, very sensitive to hyperventilation. Actually, Dr. Buteyko shown that you can treat those symptoms by the actually decreasing the breath rate. So the hyperventilation or activating themselves is something very opposite to what those people should do. And in practice, we can just try right now how to activate ourselves.
Okay.
Because if we already did.
Let's do this. So I understand that this safety warning is for activization techniques, right?
Yeah, it's for activization techniques in the system. Oxygen advantage, for example, Patrick McKeown talks about people who have diabetes or some heart diseases shouldn't practice his techniques. But Dr. Buteyko shows that those techniques actually can be helpful for those and other conditions. And nowadays, currently, in our medicinal status, we really sometimes it's difficult to say that this is going to heal you or help you because it's not allowed. So just we can say that Dr. Buteyko had findings like he helped people with very different conditions, except or not accepting, also including diabetes, heart diseases, and others. So it's just if you decide to practice anything and you have some health concerns, just talk to your doctor. He will most likely, or he or she, tell you to do not practice because doctors usually are not aware of those techniques. That's the way how it is currently. But maybe if your doctor cooperates with some instructor or somebody who's really proficient in those techniques, you can find a way together how to practice even if you have some conditions like this.
I see. Okay, so let's do this, but give me some example, like this activization technique that you teach me right now. Could you give me some example where and how to use it?
For sure, the first thing is good to practice it first from 3 to 5 trials when you practice the technique. Practice it in the environment like we are just right here now. So I'm with you and you're sitting, you're safe. Even if I see that you would be as you described the accident,
Yes.
almost in the car, if you see that something is not wrong, nothing happens here. You can't fall down.
I just stopped doing the technique.
Stop doing the technique, yeah, for sure. So those are safety measures. And then you can apply it even by standing, by walking, when you're already aware of your state. You know how much breathing is simply too much, how much you can afford in the situation. So you really get more in-depth knowledge of your body and you really know how your body reacts to this technique.
Yeah, I can confirm that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. I'm ready.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's try actually 3 different kinds of hyperventilation, which your listeners can try in this very, very safe setting. And those kinds of dynamic rhythmic breathing can help you get more energy, focus, and even self-confidence before important events, meetings, when you present some idea to your board and so on and so on. Basically anytime when you want to be more active, more outgoing person with the power and force, if you step into the leadership position, you can support and set by your will your biochemistry, so other people really don't only know somehow that you are the leader, but they can feel the leadership spirit out of you.
And it's for free.
It's for free again. yeah.
Okay, so I'm ready. Let's do this.
Okay, so Roman, let's do the first kind of the hyperventilation, which I call Wim Hof Method, aka hyperventilation, and it stresses the breath in, and then you exhale in this way, yeah. So you're not making any pauses between breathing in, breathing out, wonderful. It activates you. Yeah, wonderful. So that's first style. Now you're breathing out by your mouth. You can breathe out by your nose as well, which makes the feelings a little bit slower. But it's also safer version if you're able to cause the activational results just by breathing solely through your nose. I prefer this way personally, but sometimes when I want to have it strong, I do it using my mouth. Okay, wonderful. Good job, Roman. So that's the first technique.
My head is a little bit spinning.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. And it's going to spin even more because now we are going to do second technique. We usually don't do it one by one, but for the purpose to showing to our audience, it's better. We are going to do it one by one. The second, it's like I call it Bhastrika style hyperventilation for people who are not proficient in pranayama. Just simply you stress breathing in and breathing out, both, and it's sharp, shallow, activating. So you're doing just, as we called about strengthening the diaphragm. So it's like very physical working out and using the breathing.
And I heard you are cleaning somehow, cleansing your system. Is this right? Or
it's said in traditional pranayama. You know, there's some research behind it, but still it needs to be done more because there are a lot of things going on with our internal gases. So yeah, you can cleanse by that because breathing stays behind like 70% of our bodily cleansing. So for sure, always when you're breathing, you're cleansing. But a lot of also traditional, like let's say wisdom is not really supported by the modern science. So I would be careful with those claims sometimes.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I can try it because my head just stopped spinning, so I can spin it again. Okay, so like this, by nose or mouth?
I prefer to do it just by nose, but you can exhale by your mouth when you want to make it more intense.
I see.
Yeah.
Like that?
You can do it in this way, yeah. You can also try to make breath out more like hissing sound, like Now when you place your hand on your diaphragm and you do you can really see the tension, like diaphragm, the powerful muscles working out, and that's something was very, very well over.
Yeah, there's a power.
Yeah. You can feel it. It's like diaphragm is like one of the biggest muscles. It's very, very powerful. You know, you need to serve us from the birth to the death, always breathing, always working.
Yeah.
So
one question here, because when I started with breathing exercises, all those muscles are hurted the next day. It was really painful.
For sure. Yeah, because it's really a workout. It's not exaggeration. Your muscles are working hard and they are getting stronger. So that's the reason for the pain.
So it was good exercise. Okay.
For sure.
Okay, let's do the next exercise.
So this is the second one, which is, you know, on our workshops or webinars, I usually show people all those three kinds, and then I guide them to choose what do they like, which kind of hyperventilation, because you can, I haven't found any way just to look at you and see which one is going to suit you the best. So I just let people try and we usually figure out which one suits the person best.
I see.
So
okay.
this, yeah.
So I'm activated right now.
Wonderful. So let's do third and last kind of hyperventilation or activation. So the third type of hyperventilation, it's more similar to Kapalbhati in the pranayamic tradition. And it stresses out, as listeners for sure figured out, by breathing out. So we were stressing breath in, both breath in, breath out, very sharp, like Bhastrika. And now we are going to do more like forceful exhale, which for some people plays the biggest role in the activation, because it's sometimes people feel like it's very aggressive technique, you know. So also using your diaphragm, like forcing the air out. You can use also the hissing I've shown you before, because when you push a little bit air out of the U, it's like even more activated your nervous system. So it's even more aggressive, more like you're more ready for the action.
I had never done this before, so can you show me how to do that?
It's very easy. You take just small breath, nothing special, breath in, and immediately you exhale and
fully.
You don't do it fully, you wouldn't be able to do it, or your inhale would suffer afterwards, but just, 70-80% just breathe in, breathe out actively, and then again breathe in, nothing special, and breath out like very aggressive outer movement.
Okay, so like this? Like that?
It was good. It was good for the beginning. I would say that you can do inhale more softly, so you really have a difference between this and and this.
Or gently inhale. Yeah.
Yeah. Inhale gently. Yeah. You can
I
see
feel
that-
lighter after
Yeah.
this exercise.
For sure, because the pressure, that's the reason why I let you exhale with the hissing, because now you feel the pressure is higher, so you really your head is spinning even more. You know what you know the feeling basically now in the situation. So why are you standing or walking to your meeting room and you wanna get this real biochemical power? You know like how much or in which way you want to do it. If you want to use this dynamic hissing, or if you just want to exhale quickly, which activates you for sure by its own.
I see. Okay, so we had 3 activation techniques. So let's imagine right now that I am typical leader. I feel like a candle burning out from 2 sides, and I have a very stressful presentation coming. What I should do? How I can calm myself a little bit down?
That's a very good question. If we want to, I want to maybe have a small remark about the activational techniques, which actually helps us to understand more the calming effect. Because if you consider the traditional techniques, sometimes it's taught just, you know, the hyperventilation itself. But I highly recommend for everybody who's using those techniques, like follow the hyperventilation, any kind of hyperventilation, by the breath retention, because it helps your system to calm down. And you stay activated, but you will have it in calmer manner. So if you, for example, if you are even a person who's very active, sometimes you tend to be maybe a little bit too much assertive, or sometimes can happen to the person in the leadership position. It's very important to use those activational techniques with as we say, with the brain in mind, because your brain gets influenced, and if you are already very assertive person, it can happen that you are going to even be more assertive, and that's something that sometimes might be a little bit too much.
You become aggressive.
Become even aggressive. So really follow your behavior, really see what's happening, because for people who practice those dynamic techniques too much, we've seen some adverse effects. So really observe yourself, practice not 3 times a day, but once or a few times a week when you really need to get yourself into the gears, and practice also breath retention. So for example, if I breathe in the last style, then you can do a few deep breaths.
Calm
and
down,
then breathe out. And you don't have to do it for long, but just hold your breath. Nothing, keeping after exhalation. It builds up your CO2. It will make you calmer. Your nervous system will be more tuned in alignment, and it's much easier for you to operate in not only in aggressive manner, but also have this balance of your activation, but also be leader in the charge of your emotions as well.
And that is so fascinating what you just said, and I can confirm that it works in my situation when I do this activation technique and then the retention time. That's the time when I feel really peaceful, I'm swimming in the ocean and I can meditate about anything. That's a really exciting moment that I am enjoying every single day.
Yeah, for sure. Because the breath retention, there are even some research indicates that it could help the transmission of a nervous signal. So you're much calmer, but your mind goes it's more effective. Basically, you can think in better way. For sportsmen, I use it with professional sportsmen quite a lot as well, because it helps your movement, your recruitment of the muscle units and so on. So even for runners, and everybody who's in sport field, this is interesting stuff to really explore. And it's really one of the techniques which are, connected to the mysterious things, because we talked about Wim Hof technique and holotropic breathwork. This is kind of little shot of those techniques, especially holotropic breathwork, which goes more into depth, but use very, very similar, hyperventilation and going deeper. So this kind of activational technique is I really believe that it can help us to be mentally more efficient if you are practice it correctly, practice it, do not overdo it, for sure. Yeah, as you say, and your personal sharing is also very valuable in this way, because you practice it for your use. You can help your clients with that, and you have your own experience, which is just basically what you went through. You are not talking as an instructor of some system which would or who would like to push the system forward. Yeah, my method is the best, but you just talk out of your experience. So it's something which I appreciate as well.
Yeah, but sometimes I have those days when I'm having meetings all day and feeling like a candle that's been burned from both ends, and I need to calm down. Do you have some specific exercise that I can apply in my daily life?
For sure. I usually show the 2 very effective breathing techniques for people to really choose which one they like more, or use both on the different occasion. One of them is called straw breathing, because you're breathing out like you would be holding a straw in your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can breathe in, do the little pause, again, calming techniques, right? And then you do the long, slow breathing out. It can be 2 to 4 times as long or longer than your breathe in. And then after breathing out, after exhalation, you also make a little pause. So you just gently breathe in, pause for a while, and because sounds are very strong way how to talk to your nervous system. Note the difference. When we want to activate ourselves, we do I'm pushing it out, I'm vigorous, I'm active. When I want to calm myself down, I just like you're blowing the candle in the distance, it's very gentle. It doesn't need saw chain. You just do it very gently, long, like when you imagine flower or somebody who's very dear to your heart. You have those positive, soft feelings, and that's what your breathing should look like.
This is something for my wife, because when I started with activization techniques, she was very angry on me that I'm doing all those noises in the morning.
Yeah.
But okay, so I should do that like this one. Like that?
Yeah.
And how long I should do this exercise to calm my body down?
If you do 3-4 breaths in this way, if you've practiced the technique already, it's working out. It's working out. Especially into day-to-day operation, it's very useful to do it. As you said, for example, in the morning, you practice certain technique. You practice in the evening as well, same or different technique. But when you're practicing your breathing morning and evening, then during the day you're more in charge, in command of your breathing. So any effect of your calming breathing techniques during the day comes quicker. It's easier to set your nervous system.
Yeah, but what if I'm at that meeting and I'm in the middle of very aggressive discussion, and I need to calm down and don't look foolish? Is there anything I can apply?
Yeah, it's usually a big question, because if I do during my meeting, maybe some people think
the aggressiveness.
wouldn't be really happy about it. And one of the ways is the second calming technique, which is called box breathing, very famous breathing technique popularized by Mark Divine, now retired but commander in the Navy SEALs, Special Forces, the US Army. And it's basically, very, very strict soldier-like format. When you do breathe in, same time hold, breathe out, same time hold.
So like a box. Yeah.
Like a box, very simple soldier-style technique, which uses this rule that when your breathing is very, very it's always the same on every single side of this box. It just makes you calmer also very quickly. So this technique might be not that visible if somebody is not observing you with a very close eye. So now we can try it as well.
So like inhale.
You're right. And hold again for the same time. Yeah, breathe in, hold, breathe out, and same, hold.
I understand. So like a box, and it's not so obvious that you are doing some exercise.
Yeah, for sure. You can practice this even during the conversation. People usually talks about 4 seconds, but it's just some number. The main rule is those like boxes, those sides are the same length. Doesn't matter if it's 2 seconds, 4 or
I see.
whatever feels comfortable.
And there is also one interesting pattern that you are using when you speak a lot, and I noticed that you are doing. Is there any specific reason for that?
A lot of specific reasons.
Yeah. Tell us the secret.
Yeah. That's a third category which I really like to mention today, because I believe it's on a day-to-day basis, maybe it's the same or even more important than other like special breathing techniques. It's your like breathing patterns. And those systems which we mentioned, Buteyko, Oxygen Advantage talks about that a lot. A lot of other authors talks about it. James Nestor, for example, also wonderful guy who's spreading the message about correct breathing. Wrote a wonderful book which is named Breathe, and we focus on the correcting of breathing, pattern disorders or dysfunctional breathing. And functional breathing is breathing which you're not losing CO2 too much. If you're talking a lot, as we are doing, mainly now I am doing, it's very important to care about the CO2, because talking is like it's slowly you're breathing out, you're losing your CO2 again. So what you can do to replenish your CO2 and really like replenish the so-called loss of the energy which comes with it. So first, because breathing in is activational, right, as we already know, but it can be stressing, and it's even more stressing when you do it through the mouth. So anytime when you do this, you stress your system a little bit. And if you take into consideration that you are talking a lot and like every few seconds you're doing, you're hyperventilating basically.
Yeah, right.
And you can find on PubMed everywhere, like you have tons and tons of research what hyperventilation can cause even to the healthy person. Not speaking if you have some conditions underlying or already in appearance. So very good way, which I used also for training of my mindfulness, being now and here, because it doesn't come naturally, right? You need to focus. I need to focus a little bit on it, but it became more likely habit for me, so I do it like not completely unconsciously, but I don't have to pay too much attention.
You do it all the time. Right?
I start to do it like, my aim is to do it 100% of the time, right? So I'm glad that you observe me closely and you see that I'm approaching this. And it's very easy. I just shut my mouth and breathe in through my nose, because nose is made for breathing, and this is something what I don't want to do when I'm not practicing some special breathing technique which requires me to do so. But this is something what even can bring us, as I said, mindful awareness. I'm not just talking. I'm learning also how to shut my mouth, at least for a while, do my calm, like take my time. People really like, when I was talking about people of the impression, because it's not usual, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I was asking people, okay, you see that I'm doing this kind of little bit weird stuff, what's your impression? And the impressions were usually quite good. They told me, yeah, I can see that you are in calm, you take your time, you slowly breathe in, and then you continue with what you have to say. So maybe for people in a leadership position, it can be good also like demonstrate, I'm not like, hey, still talking, I'm stressed, but I take my time as a leader, I breathe in, and then I continue to share my message.
Yeah, and I can imagine that maybe in the evening you have more power and you have more energy.
For sure. It's the biochemical reality of the body. I really encourage everybody to practice that, because you can feel it. And I know a lot of people who are speaking a lot, leaders of, sports training, in company management, even if you're a parent, if you're anybody who talks a lot, this habit will really save you a lot of energy in the evening and also during your week and month. Yeah.
I have to implement this technique into my talking. Yeah, definitely. So,
wonderful start. Yeah.
So Libor, those are some great tips to get started. So thanks for that. And maybe now, what if we continue to look, or maybe if you can share some tips when people can learn more. Can you recommend some good books, resources, websites?
Okay, for sure. because today we have our podcast in English language, so it means that for first I'm going to say that the sources which we use, our project Code of Life use, are now currently available only in the Czech language. We are going to work with English-speaking people soon, maybe in a year ahead. We are still in the phase which we are establishing the, the know-how for the people speaking mainly in Czech language. But in the international environment, for people who are really interested to know more about breathing, I could more than recommend the book I read a few times, Oxygen Advantage, right, from Patrick McKeown. Very legible, very easy to understand with the, with the stories, non-Russian magic or so. It's very, very easy to understand. So there's one book which I really recommend to buy and read. So the second book, maybe about biohacking in general, you can find about breathing there as well, also about cold therapies. Boundless from the Ben Greenfield, very big book, I can show you, very heavy, it's good for weightlifting. One of the heaviest book I own, kind of new coming book. It's not very old now, it's just, I don't know, year and a half, maybe even less. Ben Greenfield is a wonderful source about anything what comes into the biohacking field. So if you are so-called hack your body, is a good source. Only problem with him is that he has so much knowledge and so much things putting out. So sometimes it's very difficult for people to really, catch with him. So sometimes when I'm consulting business leaders, they come to me, they say, okay, I know Ben Greenfield, but I want you read it for me because I simply can't afford so much time. And also Tim Ferriss is one of the guys who uses a lot of, let's say, so-called biohacking techniques, and he's also let's say, no bullshit approach guy. So Tim really very good in fast learning. And when we talk about, again, breathing techniques specifically, because I was talking more about general, caring about yourself based on very scientific research, which is dear to our heart because we want to see the facts. About breathing, you can check other authors. One of them is James Nestor. He put his wonderful book Breathe, when he talks about CO2 and this so-called new discovered magic, which is already discovered for a long time, but now it gets more to the awareness of the people. So James Nestor, he's an investigative journalist, very knowledgeable guy. I could talk about his story more, but yeah, we are just you can read his wonderful story in his book, he stuck his nose at the Stanford scientific research for 10 days. What happened with the guy who breathed only through the mouth? It's the most wonderful research which any human could do, because it influences us on a day-to-day basis. So enough about him, about James Nestor. I can recommend also some Russian authors. You can find a lot of Buteyko breathing methods, Buteyko practitioners on the West and East. They are writing books. My favorite author of my other friends who are Oxygen Advantage instructors, or maybe even instructors, teachers, we enjoy the Artur Rakimov, who's a doctor. He's Russian, but he's living in Canada now. He's putting out his things in English as well. And one of the wonderful books, also very heavy, very big book. I have it in PDF, so I believe it's heavy, but it's called Normal Breathing. Just very easy normal breathing. You can find a lot of web pages. Artur Rakimov or Dr. Rakimov has a web page, Normal Breathing, as well. I believe it's .org or something like this. Very graphically not very high level page, but very interesting content. You have another page, perfectbreathing.com, also very good source of the information. And for people who can really speak the Czech language, I can more than recommend our blog on codeoflife.com, when we really take those best sources and write articles based on the scientific research, on our personal experience in very readable and comprehensible way, and also with the action steps, because what's very important for me is not only to know how does it work, but actually what we are going to do with the knowledge. So at our webpage there are a lot of articles in Czech language. Maybe last thing which I can mention in the Czech language again, but we have the ebook for free. I believe it's more than 80 pages based on more than 100 scientific studies. We call it like a biohacker guide with regard to the immunity as well.
I think it's for free, right?
It's for free, yeah. It's ebook which covers, every possible biohacking angle about the immunity, which is basically, you know, if you hack your immunity, you hack everything in your body. So basically there's about food, again from me about breathing, about cold therapy, also very, very good match with the breathing exercises, about meditation, you know, mental hygiene. So that's something what I can recommend for people. Even leaders can share this for free with their people, because it's something what we put out after first corona crisis appeared there in March this year. So we really like felt that we need to put out something bigger for people to really like calm them down and really see what we can do on our own.
Great, pretty cool tips. I will make sure I will put it in description. So thanks for sharing. Thanks for spending time with me today. And so if any of you have questions on me or Libor, let us know in the comments. And Libor, thank you very much for joining me today. Now it's getting dark. So what about do that chanting technique that you told me about to calm down and end the day?
Roman, that's wonderful finish of our interview. So I'm very glad that we had possibility or chance to spend this time here together and talk about the breathing. And as a last bit of, let's say, goodness, which we can actually share is ancient technique of chanting, which I know that you are a fan of as well. And it's one of the techniques we are describing actually in the ebook I talked about before a while, so I'm not going to delve into science. Let's just practice. We breathe in and do this long exhalation with a sound like Om. And this sound can even help your relationship. I don't know, Roman, if you have practiced with your wife, but with
not yet.
This wonderful exercise I recommend to everybody. Just stare into your partner's eye and both do this prolonged exhalation. It's going to do a lot for your marriage relationship, everything. You can practice with kids, with everybody who's very dear to your heart, but this is something that really helps you to connect. And there are a lot of scientific researches also, what happens to the brain waves and so on. Wonderful calming technique. I recommend you to practice every single evening because it's very beneficial for the immunity, for your HRV, for tons a lot of stuffs. So it's one of the healthiest exercise and also breathing exercise which you can bless yourself every single evening.
Great, it works with you as well. So thank you, Libor.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Roman. Pleasure for me as well.